All right, it's the second Friday of the month, which means another episode of Breaking Cardboard. This is Ep.3. It's our once a month live podcast, if you will, live vlog. And this month, happy to be joined by two great guys, Eric Doty from Loop, CEO, who's been on Sports Card Nation. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happened since that January 29th appearance, which seems it's only 7 months ago, but it seems like years ago from where Loop is now in relation to that. And a breaker, Jared Pfeffer from Courtside Pools, who's we'll call him a family member of Loop. He breaks on the platform, and we'll talk a little bit about what he does, why Loop, and all that other stuff. If you're watching this live and you're in any chat you want to put on the screen in our chat room, I may put some of those comments on screen and we may interact. We're going to talk a little bit of hobby too, as well, current events, because it's all pertinent to everybody in this room. So with that being said, let me start with Eric. Like I said, last talk to you, officially on January 29th, Loop was really in its infancy stages at that point. And you mentioned, even during that appearance, there was moments where, it looked to you like it was going to be touch and go, whether Loop was going to even get off the ground. Obviously, here we are about a year later, and thankfully, those days are in the rear view mirror and come a long way from there to now. Just recently opened up headquarters in Miami. Just kind of for those listening, whether they're listening live or to hear this in audio form days or weeks from now, just kind of where Loop has went from that January 29th appearance, if you will.
So if we talked in January, we would have done our seed round investment. So we were just coming out of that and the holiday. So since then, we did another round of fundraising with a fund called Forerunner out of San Francisco. And in total, I think that brought us up to about 15 million. And that sounds like, it is a lot of money, but it's really being put into building up our team. And since then, we've just been hiring like crazy. Right now I think we're 14 full-time employees, another 5 full-time contractors, and then we have some part-time as well. So probably when we talked, I'd be surprised if we had more than 5 employees. So yeah. It's grown a lot, and we have a lot more roles we're going to be hiring over the next few months. So it's just been taking off like crazy. And then obviously we have way more sellers on the platform, including, I would guess, without looking at the dashboard right now, we probably have 6 or 7 who have all done $1 million in sales each. Wow. On the platform. So they've just been taking off, and yeah, it's been great. If I'm going to say the short version is it's been great, and it's just been growing so fast, faster than I probably ever anticipated it to be when I started this back in March of 2020.
Yeah, and I'm watching a Major League Baseball game, and the rotating banners, I see that Loop logo. So, like you said, just come a long way, doing well, growing literally, as we speak, and or as you speak, and great to see Keegan there with some let's go. But to you, Jared, a little bit about Courtside Pools. You're out of Kansas City, kind of how you got your start, your hobby history, how Courtside Pools came to be, what you do, and then how you got affiliated, tie that all in there with Loop as well.
Yeah, so I always been a card collector my whole life, and kind of always was like mainly sticking around the Chiefs and stuff. And then once 2020 came around, I had surgery in on my labrum, so on my shoulder, and then at the time I couldn't work because obviously you can't work with throwing labrum. That's just not fun. But so I kind of just started getting in more and more cards. So I was sitting there in my bed just resting, and I just started buying a ton of cards and doing all this stuff and getting in breaks. And this is like in January 2020, and then I just kind of went from there and just, I mainly was doing this on Instagram because that's how I found out more about breaking, and more community-esque. And then I started getting into it, and then I, did it for about a year and a half, and then actually I met Craig, who's part of the Loop team, and he reached out to me and basically told me about Loop and what it was about. And I never actually, before he can reach out to me, I had not heard about it, and just kind of went from there. And then they graciously accepted me onto the platform, and ever since then, it's been honestly the most fun I've ever had in cards, and not in terms of like just honestly just in terms of the community aspect. It's the coolest aspect that one could ask for. That somebody who loves to be in the hobby, like if you're looking for that, it's awesome that when you finally find that sort of sense.
Yeah, are you one? I'm gonna have just a funny question. Are you one of the $1 million men Eric just mentioned?
I am not. No, I'm not. No.
Not yet. Well, you're getting there. You're on your way.
He's still pretty new. When did you start on the platform?
I started like 3 days before Nationals, or the day of the Nationals started. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
It was my first stream.
Yeah, that's awesome, Eric. Just for those that maybe aren't familiar with Loop, I obviously know what it is. Everyone in this room probably does. But for those maybe listening that have, wherever they are, maybe they haven't heard about it, kind of explain what the platform does, what it brings to the hobby, and that sort of thing, so people know kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah. So our business is kind of a couple things, but probably what most people see is the app. And for the collectors, it really is just a place to buy cards. So right now it's mostly live streams. You jump in any time of the day, most hours of the day. There's at least one person streaming, up to a dozen or more. And you can jump into a stream, chat with them, chat with everybody else in the video, and buy cards. And you can buy packs, boxes, singles, what we call market value repacks. So we don't do chases. It's you spend $1,000 on a curated pack by this seller, but you're getting about $1,000 in cards. And that's the majority of it. And for the sellers, it's more of a business in a box. So let's say you're already doing live streaming, or you're not doing live streaming at all, but we hand you this set of tools where you can easily live stream using your phone. You can list all of the items. Everything is sold in the live video, so your buyers aren't leaving to go to PayPal or anywhere else. And then all the shipping logistics are handled in the app as well. And it's just super streamlined. And on top of the tools, we offer kind of like a business 101 service. So we just have a lot of brick and mortar stores, or a lot of them are just traditional small businesses that happen to be in sports cards. So we come along and say, hey, we have all this data from everyone else that's selling on the service, and we know what works and what doesn't work. So let's sit down with you and actually help you improve your business. And we can walk them through whether it's presentation, product type, time of day, just all the data we have. That'll say like, look, if you make these few changes, and I can't guarantee a percentage, but for the example, I could say, if you do these, we expect maybe a 20 to 25% increase in your sales. And then from there, maybe you can keep growing. And it's a service that I don't think anybody really knew we were going to do when we started this. And now it's, I have like one-on-one calls with multiple businesses that sell through Loop in the next couple of weeks, just to walk them through all this information and just helping them make good decisions. And that's kind of where we are today. And we're building so many more features over the next few months. That's just going to make that even better value to sellers.
Yeah, I was going to say still evolving, even
definitely.
Yep. And the nice thing is you're on both platforms. I'm a Galaxy guy, so I have it on my phone, and Apple obviously as well with iOS. And one thing I want to hit on what you said is everything's contained in there. So if someone wants to buy into whether it be a repack or break, they don't have to exit out of the app and leave. And a lot of times, it traditionally before, right? Something happens with PayPal, they forget their password, whatever the case may be. Their computer internet is wonky, and then they're just like, you know what? Forget it. And you kind of lose the customer through no fault of your own as a breaker or reseller. Now the fact that a potential hobbyist doesn't have to leave the platform at all. It's all done internally in on the platform. That's a game to me. That's a game changer. On both sides for the user and the seller as well.
Yeah, and I think just to add on there, the purchase is made before the item is ripped or handed off. There's no rip and hope the person pays you via PayPal later when they realize they don't have the money or they back out or delete their account on Twitter. Like all payment happens before the actual physical transaction. And I think that's changed a lot of the mentality as well of just accountability and knowing that everything's paid for.
Yeah. Jared, how many nights a week do you break? Kind of describe your what you do on Loop.
Well, I try to get 4 nights a week, and kind of right now in the process of vamping that up and getting some help. And whether that be another somebody to come in and help break, and I mean that mainly also helping with the shipping process. I think when people think breaking, you just think, oh man, you just open cards. It's wonderful. Shipping process. I mean, literally, I think nobody likes to ship because it's sitting there over a table and your back's starting to hurt all day after 5 hours. And so, but I do about 4 days a week. I like to do nights because I like to, if there's either whatever game or event happens today, it makes it more fun to kind of talk about it. But trying to start to do more days and stuff. But yeah, about 4 for now.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point that I've said on my show numerous times, but since you brought it up, I want to touch on it again. People think breaking's easy. You get to open the packs for someone else, and that's it. But like you said, there's a lot of work. You got to sort these out. You got to ship them. You got to package them up. You got to keep track of who's. It's why after almost 40 years of being in the hobby myself, even as I owned an LCS for 7 years, it's why I never attempted breaking, because it's a daunting task, and you got to be dedicated and good at it. You can't. There's no 50% with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead.
I just think a lot of people I just think they kind of get the stigma of it's like, oh man, like with shipping as well. It's like, when you're handling somebody else's stuff, you want to take good care of it. And so there's a lot more to just taking cards and throwing it in a bubble mailer, and because you want to bubble wrap those up, cardboard those up, and make sure that everything's not just showing up in just you know what I mean.
Yeah, you do. We'll talk about some of that, and most breakers do a great job at that.
A lot, but I'd say 99% do amazing.
Yeah, job. Yeah. And one thing about this hobby, and we all know, and it's not just this platform, but content creation, breaking, platforms, right? It's a sort of a copycat sort of industry, and we've seen people try to come. Breaking's just exponentially has grown. To a crescendo. Content creation. When I got in, in 2018, which doesn't sound that long ago, but in today's landscape, it's a long time ago. There was 5 or 6 shows. I mean, truthfully, I probably got in at the right time. If I was starting a podcast now with hundreds of them, the terrain would be more difficult to navigate. I kind of got in at the right time and sort of built up, a listenership, a following, and thankful for that. Just kind of speak, Eric, for you, we've seen, I'm not going to mention them by name, but we've seen other people try to sort of replicate what Loop has done. Probably do some things okay, some things not exactly. It's like cloning, right? The clone's never exactly as good as the original. And Jared, on the breaking side, we've just seen that genre just crazy. Probably less people not breaking. I'm probably one of the, but just I'm exaggerating there, but just kind of talk about the hobby, sort of whatever it is. Just that competition can be daunting. Even if you're first, there's someone coming up behind you that if you slip or don't, keep evolving, they're waiting to kind of take your place. Just talk about, I don't want to say the pressures of that. I mean, competition's good, but the dynamic of that maybe is a better way to put it.
Removing the hobby aspect of our business, if you just look at us like a startup, typical startup, there's always going to be competition. There's always going to be ebb and flow to the market and your success. And, we just hired a ton of people recently, and we just hired a bunch of new developers. So, we're going to be putting the pedal to the floor, so to speak. And, there's definitely going to be features that we release that I don't think anybody else is going to have ever or for a while. Like, we're looking to differentiate ourselves with features that I think just, it's what's going to make Loop basically. Like right now we have base features and people are doing really well and like it, and we're going to continue improving it and then, release new features. What I think really makes us stand out beyond, again, like there's always startups in any market and there's 50 of them that all do the same thing, but what makes you different? And I think it's going to sound really cheesy, but I think it's our heart. The fact that we don't, we have over 1,000 people who have applied to be sellers, and that's amazing. But we have not added 1,000 sellers. We had a couple a week at best.
Yeah.
And that might accelerate a little bit. But we choose who is going to stream on the app. Like, it's not you just download the app and you start selling. We look for a lot of different factors. Are you genuine? Are you a good representation of our brand? Like, you're not saying a bunch of hateful things or questionable shock value things in your stream. Are you basically set up for scale? So even if you aren't doing a tons of sales now, do we feel like if we pointed every single Loop user to you and you had a crazy night better than you've ever had before, can you handle it? Can you do the shipping on time? Do you communicate? So if we have a support issue and we reach out to you to help resolve it, do we think that you'll be professional? And we just go through all that. And then once we bring you on board, there's a whole onboarding process. And then we help build your business. Like I said, we do those calls if needed to help walk you through ways to improve your business. And we use a lot of data to back up things. Like, we don't allow razzes on the platform.
Yeah.
Raffles are technically illegal. I see them happen on other platforms, but I know that for the long-term value and building trust on our platform and doing the right thing, we're not going to allow those. And I think most sellers, even if they've done them in the past, when they start on the platform, when they hear us explain that, they go, okay, cool, I get that. And they're very respectful of it. And again, that shows the maturity and the professionalism of the people we've brought on the platform. So long answer, but I think it's really our heart and our dedication to help our current sellers succeed to the best of our ability before we just, start onboarding a bunch of other people.
Yeah, and piggybacking off something you said, Eric, and the fact that you even will consult and have those calls and, hey, let's look at this, or maybe if you do this, and sort of kind of help a seller out. It's not just, all right, here's your login, have fun, see you later.
Exactly.
And I'm sure that happens elsewhere. You're a little more hands-on. You care about what you're putting out there. Like you said, you even sort of vet the person and what the person is about and believes in, and does the right thing, that sort of thing. And yeah, obviously you don't want to have to use that authority, but you do have that option if someone is to kind of get off the rails or do something unscrupulous or not right. You have the right to kind of nip that in the bud. Obviously, you hope it never happens, but
I mean, I'll be honest. So we've been launched for almost a year, and we've removed a couple people because they stopped streaming.
Yeah.
Not even on our platform. I think they
Yeah.
couldn't keep up the business, which is unfortunate. And we remove them from the system because when we do our data pulls, like you don't want a bunch of people sitting there that haven't streamed. So there's been a couple, and we've, I'll never name or no hard feelings or anything, but there is one seller we removed just because there was some issues with shipping, and it was not a one-time infraction. It was over time. And as a business owner, that was a really tough decision because when we remove them, that lowers our total sales through the system. And I mean, it hurts us in other ways. And then we also have to be sensitive to the perception of all the other people that sell on the platform and going, no, if we were ever going to remove you, we would talk to you. And we wouldn't like just hit a switch and you suddenly lose all your business. Those are things you have to worry about. But again, we knew that if we didn't do that, we might lose the trust of our collectors on the platform. And you can just imagine the turmoil in my head, trying to find the right balance and compromises of running a business like this, where you're worried about both the seller and the buyers across the entire platform.
For you, Jared, you've been on the platform, a couple months now?
Yeah, a couple months.
How long have you been a breaker, like before you joined Loop?
Coming up on my about 2 years in like the February of 2022.
Yeah. So you're early in the process on both sides, but you're not new. Kind of speak to, joining the Loop platform, the kind of the differences for you as a breaker / reseller, whatever.
It was honestly like one of the coolest. I wasn't expecting it to be a lot of. Eric, close your ears for this one. But I remember when Craig messaged me and I was talking to my mom, and I was like, Mom, I just don't think it's going to work out. I was like, there's no way what he told me is true. And he's like, and what was already built, and then learning through the onboarding process, and then the first night going live, and then Craig being there. And then, Eric's always there every step of the way, in the Discords and everything, making sure first one to it's just really cool having somebody who built something that is also there to support you and not just start, or hey, I built this, don't let it break,
Yeah.
So
hands on.
Yeah. So everything along the way has been super fun. And the greatest thing about Loop though, and I said this earlier, but it is truly like, I know the phrase is a card show in your pocket, but it's almost more like it's like a community in your pocket, because, you got different sellers and you got different communities within Loop, and you get to find out where you like to hang out. And then, a lot of people just like to hang out everywhere. And I love to jump in everybody else's live. And I know pretty much every other seller on the Loop jumping in the lives, talking to everybody. And so it really is like something that you get to be a part of. And it's not just like, all right, well, we're opening cards here. If you don't want to open cards, leave. No, it's like, all right, let's talk about what's going on in life. Like, cards are not cards. Maybe it's something funny. Maybe it's something like, hey man, I got in an accident or something. And everybody's like, oh, like I'm here for you. It's just, that is the coolest part. And I think anybody that's looking forward to breaking on Loop is going to realize how quickly that, like, how lucky you are to have a community and be a part of a community like that. Cause it's truly amazing. That was kind of a question.
No, I hear you. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. The hobby is a community. The tagline for my Sports Card Nation podcast is "The hobby is the people."
Mm-hmm.
And someone I was on another show this week, Stacking Slabs, and Brett asked me like, "How I love that tagline." It's like, if you couldn't come up with a better one, what's the story behind that? And I said, it's pretty boring, man. If you're looking for something really, earth shattering. You're in for disappointment. When I was just just thinking of a slogan / tagline. I've just been doing this so long. I just thought about, all the experiences for me, speaking of myself here, along the way, working at the card store at 13, 14 years old, getting that experience. And then doing my first card show at 15 years old myself, then opening my first LCS at 20, then transition into online as that genre grow, and then content creation, and all those people we meet along the way that are so influential and important to all those processes, right? We're all here because of the cards. That's the hobby. But the hobby really is the people, because without those people and stories, none of this really actually happens. And so when I, going back to how I came up with the tagline, I just was really one of the first things, I just said, what is the hobby besides the obvious cards? And I'm like, it's the people and the experience. And it just clicked in my head. The hobby is the people, and the rest is history. And hearing you talk about that, Jared, with the community, even inside the app itself, is just a great example of that. And where you can say, hey, something's going on in my life, and if you're brave enough to share it, and people can kind of talk you through it. It's more than the cards. Like, listen, the cards are important, but it goes beyond the cards, and I think that's important. And hearing you kind of talk about that community, it just hits home and makes all the kind of sense in the world. I got to ask Eric. When I spoke to you in January, you said you weren't sleeping too much. A lot on your mind. I guess my follow-up question here these months later: are you getting more sleep at this point?
No, no, no. It's just tough. I'm just one of those people that, I keep hiring people on the team to take things off my plate. So I was, up until just a couple of weeks ago, I was still doing all support emails. And we finally hired a woman named Ariana to come on as a customer experience lead, who now takes all of the support tickets and emails that come in. But even then, there's just like all these things I think about. And I'm sitting on my laptop working, and next thing I know, it's 3 a.m. and I got to wake up for a morning conference call. So I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I wouldn't say it's much better than it was in January.
All right. Well, you got to get some rest. Right? Or what I like to tell people, right? Sleep when you're dead. But Jared, you're in that niche, that genre, I call it, breaking. It's a huge, I've said on my show numerous times, it really did save the wax industry, whether Panini or Topps or other, brand producers would ever, really admit it. You guys, when I say you guys, I mean girls and guys that are breaking, sort of saved the wax.
Well, it looks like we got a pause here. Brief intermission break. I'll wait for John to come back. Oh, I think Luke just took over a podcast. I think we got ourselves a podcast now, guys. That's on there. Donsky, how you doing?
I just realized I was still muted.
All right.
All right, John, you're back. Nice.
I'm back, I think.
I was
All
like,
right.
is it me? I didn't know.
Yeah, can you hear me? It's raining. It's raining here in New York, and whenever it rains, we have a little bit of internet and DirecTV issues. So hopefully, worst case, I'll go to mobile hotspot if it happens again. So I apologize, but I'm back. But
You didn't.
I
You
was
didn't
just
miss
saying,
anything.
with breaking saved the wax industry. I'll give the cliff notes since I lost a little time. Weather. Yeah. Oh, you can hear it still. You just okay. Weather tops or those other, Panini and those other companies ever kind of really admit that. I don't know, but if truth be told, that genre has now, and now it's the big problem is getting sometimes the product. Talk a little bit about that for you.
Yeah, well, first, I mean, honestly, I don't think it's like breakers saved it. I feel like in general, it's like with anything with to deal with technology. It's like if you don't evolve with technology, you're gonna left behind. So I think in general, the hobby just decided
You hear me?
let's evolve. Yeah, I can hear you, John.
Mm-hmm.
Got kind of a little bit kind of a little choppy, but you're still there. You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
good.
can hear you.
Yeah, sorry. I think the community just kind of evolved, and then I think to answer your question about getting product, it's I mean a year ago it was so much easier to product versus now, and I believe that obviously is because there's a lot more people breaking, but and I know a lot of people have a lot of different philosophies how they break, but it kind of is like it's like a give and go. You kind of decide what products you want to take, and some products are like sometimes I mean in the simple terms, sometimes it's not worth it to carry a product if you can't give your customer the exact price or best price. Then usually if I can't do that or close to it, I'm like, well, there's no point. Just won't miss out or see if we can get a deal later down the line. But I mean, there's so many different ways to get product out there if you're creative and find good deals and get good supplies and good product for your customers. It really is. That's just another part, as long with shipping, is finding product. I believe that takes a lot of time out of most breakers' days, making sure they're getting good stuff and not just find the first thing they see, if that makes sense.
Yeah, to Eric, to you with the Loop platform, what's been the biggest difficulty, if you will? If you had to point to one thing in general, is it just finding the right people to get it all done?
Yeah. Hiring. Yeah, I think that was the biggest surprise to me after I started the company. I've run teams before, but this is my first time as like I run an entire company. The job market, especially in development engineering, is just really competitive, and we're still on the tail end of a pandemic, and a lot of people are working remote and have different work styles now because we've been in it for a year and a half. So yeah, just sourcing people to hire and getting through the interview process. It's all so different than it used to be. So that's been the most difficult. Everything else has been, nothing's easy, but I'd say that's definitely the one that stands out the most.
Yeah. You just opened recently your Miami headquarters. I've seen pictures. I haven't been there yet in person. Looks awesome. Kind of talk about the launch of that, how that came about, what happens there, and where it is for those who can get there and check it out.
So we have a retail shop open in Miami. It's in the Wynwood neighborhood, so it's still fairly like right downtown Miami. And I mean, I'd love to tell you that having a retail shop was in the books since I started this thing, but it was one of those things that evolved over time where I knew we were eventually going to have an office, and I knew I wanted a video production studio to make videos in-house as well as live stream. So we were looking around, And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that a retail shop serves a lot of different purposes for us. It gives us an opportunity to know firsthand what it's like setting up and running in local card shop, which I think is important when we're working with so many local card shops, to actually know what their day-to-day struggles are. And there's partnerships and opportunities that I feel like having a physical shop actually opens us up to. There's so many online card businesses now that there's a little bit of extra, whether it's valid or not, but there's a chunk of the hobby who sees a physical card shop and it just changes the way they think about you. And I think that's, again, when we think about respecting the hobby and understanding the hobby and working with everyone, it just felt like the right thing to do. And it was definitely hard. I ended up hiring some, because I run a whole online business and a team. I can't be spent running a physical local card shop. So I actually hired someone who had, I think he had 18 years experience in running shops, not card shops. Huge, probably the biggest card collector on the team though. And he came in and he's just killing it. I mean, he got part-time associates hired. He whipped them into shape. The shop displays look amazing. He's handling all the inventory for us, and it's just been amazing. And if you live in Miami, you should definitely swing by. We're running a promotion all month that if you come in and show the app, if you have the app installed, you get 10% off. And we already have amazingly low prices, so you'll walk out with a steal if you come in and show the app.
Well, someone can buy the stuff and then break it on the platform.
Yes, please do.
It's not a bad idea.
What's that, Jared?
So that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, there you go. Sometimes every once in a while my brain works, and sometimes even a little bit better than my internet, believe it or not. But awesome stuff. And it's funny, my next question, but you answered it in that answer there, Eric. I was going to ask you, was that sort of in the plans? But you said it really wasn't sort of in the blueprint, so to speak. It just kind of came about as you grew the platform.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, whether those copycat platforms can get to that level just makes that even more difficult, sets you apart, like you said. There is something to be said, like you said, when you have a physical presence besides an online one as well, when you have both.
And it's worth noting that, we did a local card shop because we are a sports card platform. There might be other collectibles that sneak on here and there, but at least for the foreseeable future, we are a sports card app. We are a sports card community. All the features we build are going to be for the sports card community. And I just want to be super clear. Like you talked about differentiating ourselves and, the heart and the investment in the businesses, but also just we're dedicated to a single market and a community, and just we want to do that really well before we ever consider doing anything else. Yeah,
that's awesome. All right, guys, let's talk about some kind of current events. It's probably the biggest story in the hobby, and the crazy thing, we're years away from seeing anything of substance from this news, but Fanatics gets the licensing now for baseball, basketball, and football. Michael Rubin, their CEO, was just recently on Squawk Box, a financial news show in the morning, and was very outspoken, very forthright, didn't really mince too many words, and very direct, and says they want to do everything in-house. They want to sort of be the one-stop shop. They want to be direct to consumer. They want to grade. They want to have a vault. They want to have a marketplace. They even mentioned when he was asked the likelihood of purchasing one of these other brands that just lost this licensing, and his answer was quote, most likely. And so really a huge, I called it a nuclear bomb to the sports card landscape, but we're not really going to see the fallout again. The bomb's been dropped, but we're not going to see the dust settle here for a few years. But as you guys know, and I know, and I'm guilty of it myself, we're going to be talking about this all up in the lead up until we see something of substance. And I'm from Brooklyn, New York. So me and Topps have something in common. We were both born in the same city. Now, I'm not a Topps apologist, meaning they hold some responsibility to maybe why this happened as far as the baseball license go. Some customer service issues. They're not, squeaky clean and spotless, but I have a sentimental attachment to them from being from Brooklyn, being a huge baseball kid, obviously being in the hobby. And so when I first saw that notification come across my phone some weeks back, I had to do one of these, I rub my eyes and I'm reading something wrong here. Maybe it's a smaller license or something else. And so I actually opened the article up, read it once, read it twice, and realized, what it really entailed. And it was shocking to me, and especially being in the hobby so long. And, initially I was disappointed, almost mad. I wouldn't say mad, other than owning some Mudrick's back stock at the time. That was the only, skin in the game I had. But I was sort of mad because I got sentimental and I said, man, 70 years of seeing those 5 letters on cardboard and chrome, we might lose that. And we might, or we might not, depending on how this all shakes out. If Fanatics buys Topps, which remains to be seen. But the old sentimental guy on the porch, kind of shook me up, and I was sort of mad. I'm like, this Fanatics, they haven't even done sports cards before. How, and then when I read they got a 20-year licensing agreement, I'm like, Topps shouldn't even got 20 years, and they've been doing it for 70. I just think that's way too long. And so I've been on my show kind of to wrap this all up and then get your guys' take. I went on my show when I kind of cooled down, if you will, took a deep breath and really looked at this from an honest perspective. I disagree with anyone that says, oh, this is going to be the greatest thing the hobby's ever seen. And I disagree with anyone who says this is doomsday and it's over, the end is near, the hobby's going to die, sell all your cards, get out. Believe it or not, there are people that say both of those things. Obviously not the same people, but there's those camps that are running with that pennant, that flag. I'm somewhere in between, I guess, would be my answer. I think there's going to be some good things that come from it, maybe better customer service, as I alluded to some issues there. And there might not be some good things. It's been reported that, Fanatics paid 10 times the highest that Topps has ever paid. So that's a big number. And so for people who complain about what wax costs and whatnot, someone asked me, I have a segment on the show where I take questions, and someone asked me, will we see wax, in your opinion, John, will we see wax go down? And I don't know. It's all speculation. But if you're telling me as a producer of cards, I had to pay 10 times what the previous licensees had to pay, that just doesn't bode well for the price of wax coming down. And we don't know how many products Fanatics is going to produce. Topps and Panini don't have a shortage of them. There's just so many variables and unknowns, but I don't really see it coming down. And it's, again, there's someone who hasn't done it before yet on their own accord. Now, Fanatics is a big, huge company, valued anywhere between $10 and $18 billion now. Mm-hmm. Has a track record of direct to consumer. I've said on my show, if I'm a distributor, and there's no shortage of those, I'd be a little worried right now, especially with 3 of those major sport licenses going falling Fanatics' way. So I think there's going to be good and bad. We talked a little bit before we went live. Maybe less redemptions. Maybe the ones where there are redemptions, quicker turnaround times. Part of one thing I sort of agree with, I think it's sort of a double-edged sword, is now the players have a seat at the table. They have an equity stake where they've never had to this level before. Maybe they'll take a little bit more pride as sort of co-owners of the brand. And so some good things could come out of that. But I don't think it's going to be all good, and I don't think it's going to be all bad. I'd like to hear both of you guys, kind of your thoughts. Eric as a CEO of this platform now, and Jared as a breaker where this product is your number one commodity to do what you do. Whoever wants to go first, but just kind of your thoughts and opinion. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I mean this is a topic that comes up often when I'm on business calls, and everyone, even people that don't work in cards, they know what I do, and they're like, "Hey, I read this headline. What does this mean?" And I should be clear, like Loop is out there to work with everyone. So I'm not gonna like trash anyone, because I've met people from every company that you've mentioned and others that make cards, and they've all been great. They all love cards. At the end of the day, I think the news really came down to business. These are big leagues who want to make money, and there was an offer put on the table that they liked. That said, it's years out. We're going to work with everybody we can. And it's going to be really interesting to see what Fanatics does. I think anybody who says it's the best thing ever or the worst thing ever, like you said, is overreacting. No one knows. There's going to be a change. I mean, it's like, when Fleer stopped being a company. I mean, there's been different periods of time where the product and the hobby have changed. I mean, even the last couple of years, we're seeing the most technology in the hobby that we've ever seen outside of just websites. So it's going to continue to evolve. Those companies still have licenses with other. I mean, it's definitely going to change for them. So for the short answer, Loop is cautiously optimistic. We're still working with all these companies. We're trying to work with them. We're trying to bring new things to the hobby. I don't think it changes anything drastic. And even if it did, I've been thinking about Loop nonstop for like 2 years. Like, we have other features and other ideas and things that we plan on releasing that you probably couldn't even, like, if I gave you an hour to think and list every single idea, there's a bunch of things you probably wouldn't even like get on your list that if I told you, you'd be like, "Oh, wow, that's incredible." So here we are. We're like everybody else, just waiting and seeing, but I feel good about it. I feel good about the hobby in general, regardless, as long as the people running the show believe that, as you say, the hobby is the people. And this is just a fun thing that we all like to talk about and partake in.
Yeah, no doubt. I echo that kind of how it's going to be wait and see, but it's not a utopia, right? There's going to be hiccups, going to be issues. The people who hate the deal, whenever that happens, they're going to point to that instance and say, "See, I told you so." When something good happens, the other side is going to say, "See, I told you so." I'm somewhere, like I said, in between. Jared is, like I said, is someone where wax and product is sort of the main focal point of what you do. What are your thoughts? I mean, again, we're 2 to 3 years away from this becoming reality, but I'm sure you're thinking about it.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
they definitely, it's a cool. I think it's a cool, or it's going to be a cool experience to just be a part of. This is something that hasn't happened in forever, and I'm excited. And I know Fanatics came in and said, we want to do everything for us. We want to be a one-stop shop, yada yada. But I think they say that now, and then they realize once more pieces get rolling, like if you take away certain aspects they don't want to take away, I think that takes away a large customer bases too. Because say they take away breaking, fine. That's fine for me. That's not. I'm still going to be a part of the hobby. It's just one part of the hobby I won't be a part of anymore. It's totally fine. And I think that I don't think that Fanatics could do it as successful as the hundreds of breakers that are out there that are doing it and have their own special communities. Like for the people that like it for the community aspect and for the car. And then so if Fanatics comes in and rips that away from people, like I don't know if that would be a good move on their end. But I think that they're going to do whatever happens. It's going to be like you said, John. There's going to be good. There's going to be bad. And I think the coolest part is that we get to experience it. And the one thing I do hope that happens, if I could be like, if I had to say, and if I got a shot, I would be like, man, I'd love for Tops to continue with baseball because that's just flagship. And I love nothing against Panini because I do have Panini, but I'd love to see Upper Deck get back in the game for football and basketball. And I think that would just be really fun. And I think that would just blow the top off, honestly, in my opinion. But everybody has their own opinion about it, obviously.
Yeah, little segue into that. So there was a rumor going around. There's going to be a lot of those in the next 2 to 3 years. But one of them was that, Fanatics was looking to buy Upper Deck. That way they would procure all 4 licensees with the hockey. And I had Chris Carlin from Upper Deck actually on this show. He was on with Jeremy Lee. It was me, Jeremy Lee, and Chris Carlin. And Chris made a point. He goes, John, at some point during this episode, I need to address something. And I say, hey, but just let me know when. And he took that opportunity literally a month from today, a month ago from today, and said, I've heard the rumors. I just want to tell you, as someone who's affiliated with Upper Deck, to my knowledge, there's no discussion. We're a privately owned company. We haven't put a for sale sign anywhere, advertised that we're up for bid or purchase, and that's not the intent. Our relationship with the NHL, the league, and the Players Association is very good after many years, and we anticipate that continuing. So that's from Chris. For those listening to this, you'll hear him kind of get on that soapbox, as he should on episode 2. This is episode 3, but I don't. That's my fear too, guys. Is one company having everything? Sort of that. We hear the word monopoly be thrown around. I think competition is good. Eric has said that even with this platform, having other people try to replicate sort of drives and pushes you forward. If we don't have other company, my dream utopia is never going to happen, probably, especially now. But I always said I'd like to see it kind of go back to the way it used to be, where you had Upper Deck baseball, Tops baseball.
Yeah.
We don't have Donruss and Fleer anymore. Well, we have Donruss under Panini's, but see more than one company do a licensed sport, and other sports. I mentioned baseball, but not just baseball. I don't think it's good when just one brand has the market to themselves. I think everyone has pride in what they do. I get that, but when there's no one sort of pushing them for real, I think some complacency can set in. When you're the only company that has that, you can just say, hey, they don't want to buy it, they won't get it, because we're the only game in town, and that's not a good place to be. The better place to be is like, hey, we don't do a good job with this release, with this set, with this product. That other company's working right now to beat us, and if we let our guard down, we're gonna finish second or third, depending on how many. And I like to see that aspect. So I don't want to see, even if Fanatics does a great job, and I still don't really want to see them have everything to themselves. I don't think that's good long term. And then when you think about a 20-year license, I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast every once in a while. But 20 years, that's what shocked me the most, guys. When I read all this stuff, was when it came out that these are 20-year deals. How do you give? I'm sure there's some fine print in there where the league or the Players Association feels like Fanatics isn't doing something right, there's some sort of clause, or I would like to hope so, especially on a 20-year contract. But man, I just said, how do you give? Like, I didn't want Topps getting 20 years, and like I said, they've done it a long time. I think that's a long time to give that to sort of an unknown commodity. As far as they've never done this before, they're not a new company, but they're new in what they're about to partake in here, and so that one really kind of made me nervous, and so there's a little trepidation. I'm cautiously optimistic. Two words I like to use. Let's we can play armchair speculator, and this is going to happen, and that's all it is. It's just guesswork. But the 20 years, I thought, I don't know about you guys, but I just thought, man, why not 5? Even 10 years would have been too long, but it would have been a little bit more palpable than a 20-year deal. I just think I'm 48 years old. That contract, that contract might outlive me. I might not be around in that contract.
Yeah, that's too long of a contract. That's 20 years, way too long.
So, especially for a company that's never taken on this kind of entity, but I'm sure there's reasons for it, but that makes me nervous, and but I listen. I love the hobby, just like you guys. I've been in it a long time. I don't root against the hobby. That's sort of rooting against yourself, and I hope Fanatics knocks it out of the park. That being said, like I said, I don't want it to be all 4 sports. It's 3 now. I like the, and like you said, Jared, and I mentioned it, maybe work out something with Topps or Panini's where, some of these iconic brands, from Panini's side, National Treasures, Flawless, Prism, Topps has many of those. We could spend now naming them. I don't want to see those brands necessarily go away if they don't have to. We'll have to see how this all shakes out. I didn't like everything Michael Rubin said during his interview, but I actually did like the fact that he said most likely that they would buy a company. He didn't mention anyone specifically by name, but I got to think, I could be wrong here, guys, but I got to think Topps, if I'm Fanatics and I'm ranking the companies I want to purchase, Topps got to be number one. The name Topps got to be number one on that list. I got to think. If it's Upper Deck, it's just merely Upper Deck would be, and I love Upper Deck, and I love Chris Carlin and all those guys there. Best customer service to me in the industry. If it's Upper Deck, it's because they want that stranglehold on all 4 major sports. But it is sort of a hostile takeover. But it would be a nice olive branch to the hobby, to the community, to say, hey, listen, we're new as far as doing this. We kind of came in and very strongly here and did this. But we recognize what Topps means to you, the collector, the hobbyist. It means that to us as well. We've purchased that brand. It's not going away. We're gonna do it our way, and hopefully it's a better way. If you like Topps before, maybe you'll like it even more now, because we're going to clean some things up internally that weren't done right before. I don't have a problem if they say that.
Yeah, for sure.
That stance, but I'd rather see that than them say, you know what, we got the license, bye-bye Topps, see you later, have fun doing, soccer and hockey stickers and, I think it would be sort of an olive branch to the hobby community, right? To sort of say, we know what these brands mean to you, and we respect that. We're gonna make sure they stick around sometime longer as well. I think it would be a good sort of, this is a shock to everyone's system. This would be sort of a, hey, we love the hobby like you do. Look what we're going to do here or try to do here. Your guys thought, any takes on that kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think like they're kind of like holding the hobby's hand a little bit, introduce them, stick the toe in. And I think something to piggyback on your perfect utopian with all of the competitors and everybody making product. I think that would be really cool. Say Fanatics comes in and they buy up more than what we think, and they go, okay, Panini, you can make for basketball, these are the products, or you're allowed to make 3 products. Tops for basketball, you're allowed to like 3 products, and everybody's allowed to make or a certain amount of products. And then so they kind of be more strategic of what they want to release, and not say, okay, well, here's 20 products for one sport for you.
Yep. Great point. I signed that petition twice. I'll use names. I'll just keep signing that. But yeah, it's definitely one thing I've said, and I think you guys, it's going to be interesting. And whatever happens, it's going to be interesting because there's so many unknowns, so many variables. Much of what's going to happen hasn't happened yet, and we're talking about this ad nauseum now, and nothing's really, physical has actually been produced, and it's a hot button topic. So wait till we get sort of closer. If there's a company that gets bought out, I always tell people, Fanatics might want to buy one of these companies, but one of these companies got to sell to them too. It's a two-way street. They just say, hey, we're buying you. It doesn't work. It's not that easy, right? They got to kind of agree. Number one, the company that's being sold has to agree to sell, and then you have to, negotiate what that price is going to be in the end. And many times deals don't happen because that price never gets agreed upon. And so just so many things. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out. I think you both guys alluded to, we adapt, right? As hobbyists, as people who transact in the hobby, we sort of roll with the punches. We adapt. We'll figure it out. We may not like everything that happens every day, but we sort of just adjust and adapt. And, that's the best we can do. We're kind of coming down the line here. One quick question from Rip to Slabs. He says, you have a sports card shop now. What are you going to do in 5 years when Fanatics goes direct to consumer? Well, I'll just answer that real quick. I'd like to hope they don't get rid of the LCS. As a former LCS owner for 7 years, they're near and dear to my heart. I think they serve a great purpose in the communities where these are, where you can go to your local LCS on any given day, and some Sundays too, and buy some wax, buy some single cards, buy into a break, transact, just talk shop. You don't have to transact.
Exactly, yeah.
That community aspect. I don't want to lose that. Mm-hmm. And to me, it would be very bullyish. And I'm not saying they're not going to do it. I don't know what they're going to do. But it would be really bullyish for Fanatics to say, you know what, we're just going to be Acme and everything. We're doing everything. And screw you, store owner and LCS. And we don't need – thanks for playing. Here's your consolation prize. We'll see you later. That won't sit well with me. I'm sure it won't sit well with many others. So I hope they don't do that. I don't, if I'm playing devil's advocate, I don't think they will. There's a lot of card shops that they'd have to. I think the distributors are the ones that really have to sort of huddle up and figure out sort of what they're going to do here and pivot and survive. And so we'll see. Your guys kind of just in closing, your thoughts on maybe that, especially, Eric, now with the store in Miami as well.
Yeah. I think we'll wait and see. I mean, that's going to be my advice to everybody. There's just so much speculation, but at the end of the day, it doesn't change the cards in my collection today. It doesn't change the cards I'm buying for my collection tomorrow. And it doesn't change what Loop is doing in the near future, if at all in the future. So, yeah, I mean, that's where I am. The store is already doing really well. And if Fanatics, obviously these other companies are going to keep making the other products that they have. Yeah. And if Fanatics works with LCSs and has some sort of distribution model, which I would bet that they will, we'd love to work with them. I'm never going to say anything like crazy. I am an optimist when I come about this stuff. When I look at how things can go, like there's no reason for me not to be an optimist. And on top of it, like we just want to work with everyone. Like
You give everyone the benefit.
That's the safe.
Yeah, well, you give everyone the benefit. You give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Hey, we don't know. You don't want to just already paint someone what they're going to be like when you don't know. You give everyone, hey, let's see what they're going to do, how they're going to be with us, and hopefully have a relationship. I think that's just smart.
Yeah,
Jared, kind of your take.
Yeah,
just,
I mean, I think of it. This is like I always think of it when I hear people also say about the monopoly and like taking out local card shops. I mean, it's just as many people only do breaks. There's just as many people that only go to local card shops. So you take away that from everywhere across the nation. That's like if Amazon were coming and buy up Walmarts and Targets and they take them all out. You know, the people that only go to those stores, it's like, well, I guess we're done doing that. So I don't think that'd be I think if they want to be a smart or, make the smartest moves, I think they already do realize that, honestly.
It's a tall order, and they have a lot of other things on their list.
Yeah.
That's going to be taking their time and attention. And I don't think that one ranks. I don't know, but I'm thinking that's not high on the priority list for Fanatics. I think a few other things are higher up there. And so I'm guessing not, but again, we'll have to wait and see. Well, guys, I appreciate you coming on tonight, sharing what Loop's doing, courtside pools. I always give my guests on any of my shows, give out any, websites where people can find you, download the app, where people can find courtside pools, whoever wants to go first. You both will have time to give out all those.
You can find me on Loop, courtside pools on Loop, or Instagram or Twitter. But John, I really appreciate you having me on and having Eric on, and I love chatting about this stuff, so it makes me excited. And for anybody that hasn't tried out Loop, you're missing out on a really fun community. Even if you never purchased a single card from Loop or anything from Loop, the community is well worth it. And there are many people on the app that are just there for the community. It's awesome.
I mean, he kind of did half of mine. Just thanks for having me. I mean, the name Loop, I think, is below my name, LOUPE. So if you give us a search, Loop Sports Cards, it's an app on iOS and Android, where we have multiple sellers on most times of the day, and we're continuing to grow a couple new sellers at least every week. So just check it out, and we're a growing team. You're going to see a lot of new features and improvements come to the app. So I'd say definitely give it a try and reach out to us if you have any feedback.
Yeah, and like you said, stay tuned. You got other things in the pipeline coming up. So things are evolving. So again, guys, thank you. This show's Breaking Cardboard. We're on once a month. We're actually the second Friday of each month at 9:30 p.m. Usually I have a co-host. No co-host today, so I just had two guests instead. Two guys more than me are better than me. So it works out in the end. So again, guys, continued success for both of you. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, John.
Thanks so much.